In the heart of Burkina Faso, where the Sahel winds whispered through the red dust and baobab trees stood like ancient guardians, a young boy named Ibrahim Traoré grew up under a sky filled with dreams. He was not born into wealth or privilege. His village, Kèra, was a small, proud community where everyone knew the weight of hard work. Ibrahim spent his early years herding cattle, helping his mother at the market, and studying by the faint glow of an oil lamp. His father, a school teacher, taught him that true leadership was about service, not power. A real leader, his father often said, does not stand above the people. He stands among them. Those words clung to Ibrahim's heart like a sacred oath. As he grew, so did his ambition, not for riches, but for change. At the University of Ouagadougou, Ibrahim studied geology, fascinated by the treasures buried under his country's dry earth. Yet he couldn't ignore the growing instability around him. Villages he knew were being attacked. Friends vanished into the chaos of insurgency. At just 22, he made a choice that surprised many. He left behind a comfortable academic path and joined the military. In training, he was not the loudest, not the strongest, but he was the one who stayed behind after exercises to help the wounded, the one who shared his rations when supplies ran low. His humility earned him a rare kind of respect, one that cannot be bought, only given. By the time he joined the elite Cobra unit, he had become a quiet symbol of hope for soldiers tired of politics and betrayal. Years later, as the country descended deeper into violence and the leadership grew detached, Ibrahim found himself at a crossroads. One night, under the pale stars, a meeting of young officers took place. They spoke not of power, but of responsibility. "We are not saving ourselves," Ibrahim said, voice low and firm. "We are saving the future of children we will never meet." On September 30th, 2022, Ibrahim led the coup that would change Burkina Faso's path. Not with arrogance, but with the burden of duty heavy on his shoulders. When he entered the presidential palace, he did not demand luxuries. He slept in a simple cot. He continued to wear his military fatigues, refusing lavish titles, refusing even to move into the grandest halls. "This seat is not a throne," he reminded his new council. "It is a stool. We sit only to serve." Unlike leaders before him, Ibrahim often left the capital without fanfare. He traveled dusty roads to remote villages, sitting with elders under mango trees, listening more than speaking. Once, in a town devastated by insurgents, an old woman knelt before him to offer a gift, a handmade calabash bowl. Embarrassed, Ibrahim knelt too, refusing to accept it, standing tall. "Mother," he said gently, "I am your son before I am your president." That moment was captured in a photo that traveled the world. A simple soldier, kneeling before a simple woman, in a world obsessed with power. As months turned into years, Ibrahim Traoré never forgot his oath. He fought the insurgency not just with weapons, but with education, with agriculture projects, with new alliances rooted in African dignity rather than colonial debts. When asked one day by a foreign journalist what he wanted his legacy to be, he smiled quietly and answered, "Let them say I built wells where there was thirst. Let them say I planted seeds where there was hunger. If they remember my name at all, let it be whispered at the firesides, not shouted in marble halls." And so, the humble captain remained Burkina Faso's quiet guardian, a leader who walked not ahead of his people, but alongside them. Leadership was a heavy cloak, and even for someone as grounded as Ibrahim, there were moments when the burden pressed down harder than steel. Not everyone trusted him. In the cities, whispers grew. "He is too young. He is too naive. The world of politics will devour him." Foreign powers sent envoys in crisp suits, speaking in polished tongues, offering partnerships that smelled sweeter than they tasted. Contracts were placed before him, promises of quick wealth, powerful weapons, security forces trained by foreign hands. Each time, Ibrahim read the documents carefully, then politely but firmly, he pushed them back across the table. "We will not trade one chain for another," he said. This refusal angered many. Threats followed, quiet threats, ones that slipped into meetings like poison. But Ibrahim stood firm, like the baobab trees of his childhood, weathering the storms. Still, some nights he would sit alone in his modest study, staring at a map of Burkina Faso pinned to the wall, wondering if he had made the right choices. He missed the simplicity of soldier life. He missed laughing with his comrades under starlit skies. Leadership, he realized, was not about being fearless. It was about carrying your fear like a shield, not letting it break you. One morning, word came from the north. A village had been overrun. Dozens were missing. The army command suggested a meeting to assess the situation. But Ibrahim shook his head. "We don't assess from behind desks," he said. "We walk with them." And so, without fanfare, without a convoy of black-tinted cars, he took only a handful of trusted soldiers and journeyed north. For 3 days, they traveled rough, sleeping in abandoned huts, sharing water, crossing dry riverbeds. When they finally reached the village, there were no cheers, only tired faces, broken homes, and the sharp smell of smoke in the air. Ibrahim did not give a speech. He simply picked up a shovel and helped rebuild the broken school. Brick by brick, hand by hand. The villagers watched, astonished. Here was a man who could summon armies, yet chose instead to lift a trowel. That day, a little boy, no more than 6, tugged at Ibrahim's sleeve. "Sir, are you really the president?" Ibrahim knelt down, dust on his knees, sweat streaking his brow. "Today, my son," he said with a smile, "I am only a builder." The boy grinned, and in that moment, something shifted. Not in policy, not in strategy, but in the heart of the people. They did not see him as a ruler, they saw him as one of them. Months turned into years. The insurgents grew more desperate as the people's spirit strengthened. They targeted schools, markets, even volunteer soldiers who rose up in defense. Each loss was a cut across Ibrahim's heart. He attended every funeral he could, standing bareheaded in the scorching sun as coffins were lowered into the earth. He made it a rule. No hero would be buried without him there if he could help it. "If I send them to fight," he said, "I must honor them in death." But even heroes have their moments of breaking. One night, after a particularly brutal ambush took the lives of 20 young volunteers, Ibrahim stood alone on a hilltop. He looked at the stars that had once promised endless hope, and he wept. Not as a president, not as a soldier, but as a man who loved his country too much to pretend he was made of stone. By his 4th year in power, the change was undeniable. New schools rose where craters once scarred the land. Community farms fed those who had once begged for aid. Young boys and girls sang songs in local languages, songs not of war, but of peace. Ibrahim often visited these places quietly, sometimes slipping into the back of a classroom or helping to harvest millet with farmers. He never stayed long. He believed true service meant lifting others, then stepping back so they could stand taller without him. In his speeches, he rarely spoke about his own achievements. Instead, he praised teachers, doctors, farmers, mothers. "My dream," he said once at a gathering, "is that one day no one will remember who Ibrahim Traoré was, only that they remember the bridges we built together."